Good morning, and welcome to the session Live Screen Broadcast with replaykit. My name is Alexander, and I'm very excited to be here and talk to you about replaykit concepts and new features that we bring to replaykit this year. We've got lots to discuss, so let's get started. Replaykit is a framework that allows you to capture application screen, audio, and microphone content in real time, or record to a video file that the users can later edit or share. And replaykit also supports live broadcast. For applications generating content like games, replaykit provides tools that allow them to stream audio and visual content using third-party broadcast services. And for the broadcast applications, replaykit provides the ability to receive that content captured from other applications or entire iOS and encode and stream to the servers directly from the same device. replaykit delivers its content in high quality with lowest latency and very low performance overhead and battery usage. It also safeguards the user's privacy by asking for approval before any recording or broadcast begins, and also showing a prominent indicator whenever content is being captured. In this session today, we are going to talk about the live broadcast functionality of replaykit. And we're going to start with overview and talk about in-app broadcast and iOS system broadcast. And then we are going to talk about the new API called System Broadcast Picker. And this is an API that allows you to initiate the broadcast directly from your broadcast application. After that, we're going to discuss how you can actually implement the broadcast extensions and how that would work for you with the new API that we ship. Also, we're going to talk about the protecting of the content of your applications from being captured. So let's start with overview of the live broadcast. As I said, replaykit allows you to broadcast your app's screen, audio, and audio content to a third-party broadcast service directly from your iOS or tvOS device. And on iOS, you can also provide voice or video commentary using microphone or camera. And all this content is absolutely secure and only accessible to the service that you're using. So when you're streaming your gameplay to Mobcrush or YouTube, share your screen in WebEx video call, use TeamViewer to work with customer support, or maybe stream your drawing app on a Facebook. All of that is powered with replaykit technology. Originally, with a replaykit live broadcast, the user would be in the app and would use the app to start and stop the broadcast. And the app would do that by directly communicating to a replaykit API, and replaykit itself would invoke the broadcast extensions and begin providing it with visuals and audio content from that application. And the extension would encode the media and stream to the service. And this is what we call in-app broadcast. And what was new with replaykit 2 is that instead we have entire system in effect being broadcasted. And how this works is the user would initiate that broadcast from within the control center. So this is where they start and stop the broadcast. And that begins a system-wide replaykit 2 broadcast session. And thus, audio and video samples, again, go to the extension and uploaded to the service. And conceptually, this is the difference between the two. And just to talk about the in-app broadcast in the beginning. In the in-app broadcast, this is your app or your game that is providing the content that is captured live as you play in a game. And your game is calling the replaykit API to start and stop the broadcast. And it also presents this broadcast activity view controller so that the viewer would pick, or the user would pick the service. And in line with that, the broadcast application is providing you the broadcast extension, which replaykit is invoking on behalf of that game to sign users into the service and upload the broadcast content live to their servers. That was the original way of using replaykit live broadcast. And we covered this before. And in case your application does need this fine-grained control over starting and stopping the broadcast, please, for more information, please find that session called Go Live with replaykit from a couple of years ago. But really what today's session is about is what we call iOS system broadcast. And this is, again, the broadcast of all your on-screen activity and all your sounds. And instead of being initiated from within your application and starting and stopping when the app is closed, for example, this session is started and stopped within Control Center. And this is system-wide, and it runs continuously as the user moves from the home screen to the app, or as they move from one app to another. And all of this is built into iOS 11 and above. And this is what we introduced last year as replaykit 2. So here's some game, and you're playing a game, and you want to start the live stream and initiate the broadcast. So you pull down the Control Center and 3D touch into that screen recording button. And that will bring up the picker for you to either record your gameplay, or if you tap on one of the rows of broadcast providers, it will stream out to their service. So once you have done that, you're back to your game. And now you're streaming to that service. The broadcast extension receives the media samples captured from the screen and uploads the video stream to its backend. And the viewers, perhaps in their web browsers or however they want to view that stream, are watching your broadcast on their own devices around the world. This is how you start the iOS system broadcast. And now what's interesting about this kind of broadcast, again, is that, as I said, it continues regardless of you moving from one app to another. So I'm broadcasting from my home screen here, and then my home screen is what is being broadcasted. And then, if I'm launching a different app, that app is going to be broadcasted now. And that's really the core thing now. So the broadcast itself is a system-wide experience, and you can go back to the Control Center and stop it, or you can tap on the status bar at the top, and it will bring up the controls to stop the broadcast. And another thing is that if next I run as a landscape, there's also a way to support that. And you can move between landscape and portrait as you go from one app to another. So this was a iOS system broadcast we enabled last year. And the feedback and adoption we've seen since then was amazing. And our live broadcast API today is used in many apps in categories like communication, streaming, health, help desk, education, and social. But at the same time, we had a lot of feedback that people are having a hard time finding this broadcast UI in the Control Center. So we wanted to make it easy for you to add it right into your app. And this year, our goal was to allow you to integrate iOS system broadcast into your application. And we're very excited to announce System Broadcast Picker. So let me go back to my diagram. So what we added now is sort of a hybrid approach to these two very linear styles. And in this hybrid approach, we added up the ability for your application to also be initiator of iOS system broadcast. So your app now can do the same thing as what Control Center is doing. Start the broadcast, and then allow it to continue as you move from one app to another, and then move to the home screen, and so on. So as the user starts the broadcast from your application, he can later go to the control center and stop it from there, or vice versa. He could start from the control center and then go to your app and tap that button that stops. So again, the system broadcast picker allows users to start the iOS system broadcast without leaving your application. And this is just a simple button in the view that we provide. And this is a new feature we're enabling in iOS 12. Here's an example of that. Here I have the sample app Fox 2, and I added up this button at the top. So if I hit this broadcast picker button, that's going to bring up the same UI as you would have seen if you would go to the control center. So I pick up the broadcast provider and start my broadcast. Now I'm back in the app, and now I'm just broadcasting to that provider. And people around the world can watch my live stream. So how is this done? OK, there is a new class called RP System Broadcast Picker View. And it's just a subclass of UI view, and you can add it to your application using the interface builder as a view with a custom class. Or you can do it programmatically. And all you need to do is just create an instance of RP System Broadcast Picker View and add it to your view hierarchy. So this is the most simple way to use a broadcast picker. But I know that many of you in this room are broadcast service developers. And finally, with this new API, your users can start the broadcast directly from your application. And there's no more need to include all those tutorials, how you can enable the screen recording and settings, and how to find your service in that list in the control center. But however, you would probably like the picker to show the broadcast extension for just your service. And replaykit provides API that lets you do exactly that. And it is just a property of that view. And what you need to do is just get the bundle identifier from your broadcast extension and assign to that property of the view called preferred extension. Here's a code example of how you could do this. You would probably like to set the property right after creating the view. And the only difference from that example would be that you need to replace the string com your app broadcast extension with a bundle ID of your extension. So here's that diagram. And I just want to emphasize the point about the picker view that you create in your app. So that view is just a shortcut that brings up a system UI of the broadcast picker, the same UI that you can access using the control center. And the picker itself belongs to the system, and your application does not own any part of the broadcast state, and also cannot start or stop the system broadcast programmatically. So this is what you need to do to add the iOS system broadcast to your app. There's a new API, and it is fairly simple, and you could really be done adopting it before leaving this session. And next, we are going to walk through the process for the broadcast extension developers and discuss how you can actually implement the broadcast extension and how things would work for you if your app provides both the extension and the broadcast picker. So let me come back to that diagram. We are sort of moving to the broadcast extension side now, and we want to show you the path assuming the system broadcast. Let's start with talking about the broadcast application and the broadcast extension, and what each of them needs to do during the system broadcast session. So you install the broadcast extension along with the application that contains it. So if you install Facebook, you also install Facebook broadcast extension. And broadcast extension and the application are separate binaries, and each runs in its own process, and those processes are invoked directly by the user and independently from each other. And typically, you would use the application to allow users sign in or sign up for your service. And now for the apps that will adopt the broadcast speaker API, you can also let user to type in some message before posting this particular broadcast to his Facebook. And the broadcast extension does all the actual work when everything required to start the broadcast is already available. So again, the extension does the work of taking samples handed to it by replaykit, the raw samples of the audio from the app, video of the screen, and perhaps audio from the microphone, and encoding those and uploading to your service using whatever technology you prefer to use. To help you get started developing a new broadcast services, we provide the Xcode template, and just add the extension to your project using the template, and you'll be ready to begin. So now let's look how you can code all of this. So when you create an extension in your project using Xcode template, you'll get a sample handle class like this. And this is where you add your code to handle different events during the broadcast. And also, you would implement this function that handles incoming audio and video samples. This is how the life cycle of the broadcast usually looks like. So we have states called setup, initialized, started, processing, and stopped. Or on the left, there's this green square, which corresponds to the state when your broadcast extension is not running yet. And at this point, your app could, for example, get the login credentials from the user and use a shared keychain to pass these credentials to the extension. Or again, here you could let the user to type in that message for the Facebook post and pass it to the extension like one way or another. So once the user initiates the broadcast, using the control center or your application that adopted the broadcast speaker, replaykit launches the extension process and creates an instance of your sample handler class. And at that point, you can override the default initializer of sample handler and do something essential for your broadcast and not directly related to handling the media samples. So for example, you could get login credentials from this keychain and establish a broadcast session with your servers. So once the process is launched and the instance of your sample handler already exists, the extension is notified that replaykit will begin providing it with audio and video samples using the function called broadcast started. And in this function, you'd probably like to create your media engine or do anything else that you need to start receiving those samples in real time and encoding them and uploading to your servers. So once the broadcast is running now, replaykit will provide raw audio and video samples, and your extension needs to encode it and upload to your video service using whatever technology you prefer to use. Replaykit provides your extension 3 types of the samples. Samples with video captured from the screen, samples with audio tapped from the application, and samples with audio captured from the microphone. And your extension will encode all of this and upload to the service. And all of this are going to the extension and are handled by the function called process sample buffer. This function receives a single CM sample buffer, as you see, and the type of the buffer. And what it needs to do is to encode and upload the media samples. And in this code example, we show you how you can encode the video using the video toolbox. So we recommend you using the video toolbox as it provides hardware-accelerated encoding capabilities. And that is especially important for our use case because extensions have much lower memory limits compared to the applications. So once you encoding and streaming the video to the broadcast servers, the viewers around the world can or could watch your broadcast live. But they need some way to find your broadcast. And say, if a person likes playing and watching Angry Birds, there should be some place on your website or in your app where he can find all the live broadcasts with that game. And in order to implement this, you need to add to your video stream some information about the game that is being broadcasted now. And for that, replaykit provides API function called broadcast annotated with application info. And as soon as a player starts his game, Angry Birds in this example, replaykit notifies your extension that that has happened and provides a dictionary with details about the app that was started. And as an example, you can use the key defined by replaykit called RP application info bundle identifier key and get the bundle ID of that game and pass it as a metadata to your stream. When the user stops the broadcast one way or another, replaykit is using a function called broadcast finish to communicate to your extensions that broadcast session is over and there will be no more samples delivered to the sample handler. And in this function, you would probably like to finish uploading your buffered video and deallocate your media engine or anything else that you need to release. So this is how the broadcast life cycle usually goes. And there's one more point that I would like to mention here. As we discussed, everything required to set up the broadcast should happen in the application. And you would get the login credentials using the app, or you could get the name for the broadcast in the application. And we have a state for this green square on the left side. However, this could be the case that when the broadcast is started, your extension is missing something to proceed with the broadcast. For example, the login process could have failed, or something else is needed. And I want to show you how you can handle this case. replaykit provides an API that allows extension to communicate to the user that broadcast cannot be started and provide a particular action required to fix the problem. And the way it works, the extension calls some API function, and replaykit will terminate the session and present the user the alert that will include the failure reason provided by the extension. And in this example, this error message is from mob crash, and it says that user is not logged in. So next, if the user taps that button, go to the application, replaykit is launching your application, and what you need to do there is handle this case in some way, present the UI where user will sign in or sign up, and the next time, the broadcast will just work. So we had this code sample for the broadcast started before, and here I want to show you how do you handle this case when the user is not logged in. So there's a function called finish broadcast with error, and what you need to do is provide a user info dictionary with a failure reason, and replaykit is going to use that string in the alert that is shown after the session is stopped. OK. This is how you develop the broadcast extension. And as you see, the process is pretty straightforward. The application handles the broadcast setup and then communicates that info to the extension. And after that, the session starts, and you receive and encode the media samples. And also, you can get information about the application on the screen that viewers could, so that viewers could find your broadcast. And there's just one more point I would like to discuss today. And this is protecting content of your applications. So your app may display some content that you don't want to be captured in screen recording or live broadcast. And that applies to both audio and visual content. There's an API that you can use to tell if your content is being captured. And that API is provided by UIKit framework. And I'm talking about the property of UI screen called captured. So you can register to receive notifications whenever the value of this property is changed, and stop your audio playback or hide the visual content when recording starts. And there's also a special case that you need to take care of, which is AirPlay screen mirroring. And I would like to show you how you could do this using this code example for the notification handler. And basically, in the case of the screen mirroring, there's always more than one screen. And this array called screens is going to have more than one element. And even though the is captured is going to return yes during the screen mirroring session, we have this extra check that will allow your playback to continue. So this is a live screen broadcast and how it really works. And to summarize, replaykit provides high-level API that allows you to broadcast content of just one app or all your on-screen activity. In iOS 12, we provide you an API or way to initiate the system broadcast directly from your broadcast application. And what you actually need to code is a broadcast extension that does all the actual work of encoding the video. And also, we just discussed the way to protect the content of your apps. You can find more information on the website of our talk. And we also will be having the replaykit labs later today at 3 p.m. in the Technology Lab 5. So if you have any questions or comments, please come. We'd love to hear from you. So thank you so much for being here with us today. We are really excited of bringing you the new approach for live screen broadcast on iOS and looking forward to see first applications adopting it. So please go ahead, create your first broadcast extension using the Xcode template, or open your existing project and add the broadcast picker to your app and enable live screen broadcast from iOS to your platform today. Thank you.